Hi everyone, it's Anne from Annalise's Creations. I'm here to do my year 2017 for the month of October. And this month it's favorites. So you could take it any way you want. This is day 2. I showed you some of my favorite art supplies and that I like to do. Now I'm going to show you some of my favorite techniques that I like to do and favorite things I like to use when creating a canvas. So you could do, you could do an art journal page if that's what you want to do. Just use like a watercolor paper. That would be good for this kind of a project because watercolor paper is a little bit thicker of a paper than using like your standard art journaling paper or something to that effect. So I am using an 8x10 canvas, and it's just one of those cheapy multi-pack canvases you can get at Michael's, or if you shop any other place, they usually have like a value pack of 8x10s. Usually they come maybe in a 4 to 6 pack, something like that, and you can get them much cheaper that way. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to put something similar to this one that I showed you yesterday, using some vintage items and creating another canvas. Now this canvas here is going to be going to my Reno house in my guest room. I decided I'm going to put this in the guest room, and I have a lot of decor that's very vintage like that I'm going to put in that guest room that I have kind of ideas already set up of how I'm going to decorate it. So without further ado, I'm going to first show you how I put my canvas together, and it's already has gesso on it, so I don't need to add any extra gesso. You can if you want. Gesso kind of helps to grip the paint and things like that. So I'm going to use some of Tim Holtz's Distress Spray Stain, and this is water soluble. It moves around, but once I get it on and I show you my other techniques, it does make it permanent. And then I also have this Distress ink. It's a re-inker actually that re-inks the Distress ink pads, but I like to use it in my art. So they're not cheap, but a little bit of it goes a long way. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use these in my background first, okay? And I'm kind of moving some other things that I have on my work area surface that I've got that I'm going to use in this project, and I want to kind of get it out of the way. I had a box, and I don't know what I did with that box. Somewhere in the move, I either used it to pack something for spraying, so I'm hoping I won't get too many things here. So I'm going to get started and enjoy my process. And there's another thing I'm going to use for this, and I didn't get it out. If I can find it, I think it's this one. Actually, it's in the other color. I'll be right back to get the paint that I need for this as well. Be right back. All right, so I'm going to get started. I am also going to use some yellow oxide, and it is the Deco Art Media Fluid Acrylics. Okay, so it's a lot more fluid, a lot more like watery like consistency. So I'm going to get started, and I'm just spraying a little of this on. Then I'm going to take some of my ink, and I'm just going to ink it like that. Then I'm going to take a brush, and I'm just going to, sorry about this, I should have had my brush ready. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this around. And you could do the edges of your canvas as well. If you're doing a canvas, you could get the sides. Okay. And I'm going to take some of this yellow oxide, and this kind of makes this ink permanent too. by doing this, but there's another way of doing it too to make it permanent. But I like using this technique because it kind of gives it an aged look, a vintage look. I'm just going in and kind of adding some of what's left over on my brush on the edges of the canvas. So there you have it there. Now I'll be right back because I need to get a smaller brush and some water because of course I wasn't prepared. So I'll be right back. All right, so the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tissue papers that have writing on them. They look like this. Okay. Somebody sent me this in some Happy Mail and I love the background. So I'm going to use some of this. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to tear some of it. So I need this brush to kind of cut out what I want to do here. So I'm wetting the paper, but I'm using it in such a way to just get the writing that I want. This one's kind of got like a waxy finish to it, so it's not quite tearing. Okay, the way I wanted it to. Sometimes if you wet it, it kind of will tear right where you wet it. Oh yeah, there it goes. It just needed to soak in a little more. Using some of this one here. Okay, and I'm going to use some other kinds here as well. Okay, and here is the pattern that I have. It's a vintage pattern. This is from, if I can read the small print, it usually will tell you the year, 1975. So I like using, not only do I like to use the images, which I'm going to fussy cut these out off camera so I don't bore you to tears. All right, and I'm going to take the actual pattern here. I like using some of it in the background. So what I do is I'll just take what I find interesting, some of the lines or whatever. Like, see, this has got the crown and actually the star. But I kind of like using sometimes just part of it, okay? And then I'll layer over it with other things. And I'm going to use my antique medium, which has got a little more of a yellow tone to it. This is made by Deco Art. It's a Deco Page medium. So I'm going to do this here like this. And it might reactivate the ink that's underneath, but I don't mind that at all because it adds to the aging look of this piece that I'm trying to age. Okay, so I'm going to put this on here. I'm trying to get it as flat as I can, but even if I get a little wrinkles in it, it kind of adds some texture to the piece. But I'll take a old gift card or credit card or whatever and kind of smooth it out a little more. And you got to go very lightly over this because you don't want to tear the actual pattern. But if it tears a little, that's okay too. right, so there you have it. And then I'm going to go ahead and start adding some other things to this background to make it a little more interesting. And I think I might add this to about here. This one did wrinkle a little, and I don't mind it wrinkled. And someone sent me this really lovely tissue paper too that's got butterflies on it. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of this as well. And I don't mind it going over the edge a little bit here, because I don't frame my canvases, so I like adding some interest to the edges of the canvas. Then I'm going to let this dry, and in the meantime I'm going to go ahead and cut this out off camera, and then I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so I have cut out my girls, alright, but before I go ahead and add those, I've torn out some more writing from that tissue paper I showed you earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere those first. Okay, now I like to take a little bit of the yellow oxide, and off camera I already had done some here, and then I took a baby wipe, and went ahead and wiped the excess off, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Just like that, and then I take a baby wipe and I wipe off the excess. There we go, it's a little better. So I'm just going to use the excess to go over it, because it kind of blends in, pushes this back in the background a little. Whoops. So to adhere these girls, because the paper is aged and it's kind of deteriorating a little bit, I'm going to use some decoupage napkin, which is a little bit thinner consistency than the antique one, so that I can adhere these down better, and then I'll come back and go over it with the antique medium. But before I do that, I'm going to adhere this. This usually comes on some of the, it's like a quick measure it's called, and it's usually on the edges or the bottom part of the sewing patterns, at least in the American versions. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue it down here. I'm going to adhere it down here, and I'm going to use the antique medium for that. There. Okay, but I'm going to let this dry first, and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so this is all dry, so now I'm going to adhere these with the antique medium, I mean not antique, the napkin one, because it's a thinner consistency. And these are kind of aging, so they're very fragile. I ripped one of them, kind of, but I think once I adhere it, it won't look bad. So I'm going to put this one down here. Try and plug the hole. Sometimes the holes in these get, the openings in these get clogged. There we go. Okay, so I think I'm going to put it there, about there. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll be back in a little bit to go back over this with some antique medium, and then I'll show you the next steps. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and add the antique medium now over these girls to make sure that they're completely, you know, adhered, and I've got the antique medium over them, which will give them an aged look. Let's see. What did I do with the... Oh, here it is. Is it glued again? There we go. Got clogged again. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I have placed my objects down that I want to glue onto this canvas, and in the upper left hand corner are some pretty flowers that I think Gina Aaron sent to me a while ago. She was getting rid of a bunch of flowers and that were hand sewn, handmade I believe, and she really had no use for them anymore, and so I said, please send me some, and how much do I owe you? And she said, don't worry about it. And I went, oh, thank you. So yeah, so I'm using those, and I'm going to be gluing down these Scrabble pieces that I have, and it says Le Ballet, and so I'm going to glue them down and I'll be back. Alright, so I forgot to mention that I did go around the edges of these Scrabble pieces using the Distress ink in Vintage Photograph is what it is. Okay, so I went in and I glued these down, and next I've got these really pretty flowers that were handmade. I think Gina Aaron sent me these in some Happy Mail. So I'm going to glue them down in different spots here. I always like to add a little extra bling or fabric or lace or, you know, something to add some kind of three-dimensional kind of thing to it. So I've got those down, but I need to find something for her dress. I was hoping I had some bling that was kind of similar color, but I don't know if I do. This one, let's see if that will look good on this one. No, see, I kind of wanted a blue one, and there's none with bling on it, so I guess she's going to get a plain blue one. A plain blue flower. Or teal flower, it's more teal than blue. Okay, so there are those. That's that. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to add some more little things here. I was going to add that there, but I don't think I will. These are not sticking very well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add a gem here for that one. Then I've got this really cute, like charm-like with a rose. I think I'm going to glue it down here in the corner. Sorry, here. Let's fix my, there we go. That's better. So I'm going to add that to the corner. And let's see what else I can add to this. I think I want to add a little bit of glitter kind of stuff to it. And so I've got this crystal glitter medium. And so I'm going to add a little bit to the dresses on these girls. Got very slight glitter in it. I don't know if the camera's picking it up or not, but there is some glitter on there. It's very little. Probably should have done this before I put the flowers on. Oh well. Okay. So there's that. And I'm not quite done because I want to add some stickles on here, but I gotta figure out what color first. I think I'm gonna add this one here to the star. Gotta get it started first so that I don't get a ton out at the same time. Then I'm going to do a little bit of gold on her crown. Just adding some in little bits and little places here and there. And I have some pink, I think, for her dress. Whoops, it came out too much. Ugh. She's already got some glitter and bling going on there, but I do have some white glitter, I think. Silver, yeah, I do. So I'm going to add some to the front of her top. Okay, so I'm going to let those dry, and then I'll be back in a little while to show you the finished product. Be back in a little bit. All right, so I've got all of this dry, and now I'm going to come in with a Shiva oil stick in a brown. I think it's like student brown, and I'm going to add some of it to the bottom of their feet, kind of give them some ground so it doesn't look like they're floating. And this dries, so you don't have to put a fixative over this. Because it's like oil paint in a stick, basically. It's a little smelly. So yeah, and don't get it on your clothes because it won't come out. To let this set and dry, and then once it's set and dry, it won't move around anymore. So just it depends on the weather. If it's very humid, it'll take a long time for it to dry. If it's warm but not humid, it will dry fairly quickly, like within 24 hours. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry, and I'll come back and later on. All right, everyone, excuse the background noise if you're hearing a dishwasher going. My temporary art space is right next to the kitchen, so yeah. Excuse the noise. So anyways, I am going to take some pieces of vintage lace and go ahead and adhere those on. And I'm going to use the antique medium that I've been using for this, so enjoy the process. I'll worry about gluing the sides later on the bottom half of this. Can't see that. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'll be back to do a couple more steps, and then I shall be done, I think. All right, so I have glued down the edges here of the lace, and I did this off camera, some more tissue on the sides to add interest to the sides of this canvas, and here a little bit too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off the excess lace, and then I can always glue down these little edges here. See the little edge sticking up? I'll glue that down later off camera so I don't bore you guys to tears. And I'm just going to finish up with a little finishing touches, so enjoy my process as I speed through the rest of this video. So thanks for watching, and if you like what you see, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And don't forget to go check the My Creative Year Facebook group, which I'll post a link down at the bottom. It's a brand new Facebook group for the year 2018. People are already joining. We haven't posted anything yet on there, so if you want this lesson, you have to go to my year, all right? So I'll post both links down in the description box below. And without further ado, enjoy the rest of my process. Thanks for watching. Toodles!